Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann. This is Pooh Bear, who's often in the background of my videos. Oh, he looks grumpy. And I wanted to come on today to talk about some recent 5-star fantasy reads that I read in January and February. So they are the first two books in a series called The Nine Realms. This is A Queen in Hiding and The Queen of Raiders. There are 4 books total, but I've just read the first 2. These are by Sarah Kozloff. Move my fingers. So I'll talk about those first, and then I also want to talk about a Brandon Sanderson book, Tress of the Emerald Sea. So I'll get to this one next. I'll have timestamps down below, though, if you wanted to skip ahead to this one. So first, I wanted to talk about this series, which I'd never heard of the author until I went to a used bookstore with my friend, and she picked the first book of the series up in the used bookstore just on a whim because she thought the cover looked great. I was a little skeptical because there's like not much description on the back, so it kind of had that vibe of like, I don't know, how good of a fantasy can it really be if the description is literally like 2 sentences on the back of the book. But she loved it and lent me her copy, and then I got the second copy from the libraries and loved it as well. So we'll definitely continue with the 3rd and 4th books in this series. So the series, absolutely lovely, epic fantasy. So it's set in a world where there are many countries, and there are 9 spirits that are associated with I guess all of them are associated with different sort of elemental type things, but then there's also like a spirit of healing. So it's like water, fire, stone, some of those, wind, and then healing kind of randomly. But anyway, these 9 spirits, a lot of them are associated with a particular realm in this fantasy world, but not all of them are. And these spirits can grant powers to specific representatives. So each of these spirits has like one particular representative that kind of does their work on Earth, but like sort of in the background. It's not like these are proselytizing people. And then they can give powers to those people, and it plays out differently in the different realms depending on kind of the personality of that spirit. But the books follow the main character, Cerulia, who is a princess of a realm called Weirendale, and they're associated with Nargis, the water spirit. And in the first book, we are learning about Cerulia, who is a small child when the first book opens, and her mother, Queen Cressa, has been kind of in a way like almost a figurehead queen. Like not much has really happened in her realm. She doesn't really have a reputation for being powerful. And as you quickly find out in the first book, this means that a lot of people within her realm have been scheming to gain power. And so she kind of wakes up to this fact early in the first book, and she starts scheming back. So I don't want to give anything away, but right here in the title, you know that something is going to happen to this queen and this princess, and they're going to go into hiding. And that kicks off the plot for the rest of the series, because through the second book, they are still in hiding. And so we're following the princess, and we follow her as she grows up in hiding. And then as she starts to really come into herself and come into her power, we're going to see her fighting to take back her throne, which you can kind of tell from the Queen of Raiders here. She's gaining allies and scheming to get her throne back. So super great female protagonist, really well written characters, really epic. So we get great character development. We get political machinations of people trying to take this throne in Weirendale. We get the mystery of like, where are the queen and the princess? Like, what's happened? Where are they going to resurface? There's magic and special powers, which is really cool. And now we're getting into, global scale conflict, really, as this princess in hiding starts to fight back to take her throne. So I'm really loving this series. Oh, the other thing that my friend and I both really like, because we're both environmental professionals, is the the main thing that's really kind of driving the conflict. It's the reason why these like political machinations in Weirendale are successful, why all these realms are starting to come into conflict. There's an environmental reason. So you find out fairly quickly in the first book that one of the neighboring realms, called Oromondo, has been hit recently in recent years with increasing plagues that seem to have no clear source. They're kind of striking down like everybody, particularly women and children. Their food is contaminated, their water is contaminated, and they're a mining nation. So there's a strong sort of like environmental natural resources thread that is like kicking off all of the events in this book, which feels in these books, which feels really timely, and was a really lovely piece of this. So 5-star fantasies, love them, continuing with the series. All right, and then I'll talk briefly about Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. So like with the other one, I'm going to be really vague because this book, you just have to experience it as you read it. It's just utterly whimsical. The basic idea is that we have this young woman, Tress, who lives on a very barren island in the middle of the Emerald Sea. Sea is an interesting term here because it's not really made up of water. The seas on this planet are made up of spores, and the different types of spores have different types of powers. So we get the Emerald Sea spores that kind of burst into vegetation when they interact with any kind of water whatsoever. And Tress will encounter other types of seas through the course of the book where different things happen with those spores. So they're very dangerous to sail on these seas, and that's what Tress does. So it's a lovely story because she basically has to take off after the love of her life to go rescue him, which is a nice twist. That it's a heterosexual relationship, but the man is the damsel in distress, basically, who is a delightful but sort of lacking in like common sense and practical skills kind of person. And so he's in distress, and so Tress must go save him. And so she embarks on an epic quest to lovely side characters, great dialogue. It was just absolutely lovely and just so whimsical. And Sanderson kind of talks about that, and I forget if it was the intro or the afterword, but he kind of talks about the tone that he wanted to hit, and it's sort of like Stardust or The Princess Bride. You know, it just kind of has that almost tongue-in-cheek but whimsical feeling with this really strong female character. So I don't want to go into more detail because, like I said, you have to let it unfold for yourself. But this was absolutely lovely, 5-star read as well. So those are 3 fantasy books that I absolutely loved in January and February. Would love to hear other recommendations for 5-star fantasy books that other folks have been reading in 2025. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Thanks. Bye.